One, two, three, hit it.
What's going on, champions? Welcome to another episode of the Perspective Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kwame Ose.
I am one of your co-hosts, Dylan Elias.
Whoa, we're changing it up. And I'm the first and the last co-host, Izzy Castillo.
Hey, you guys switch it up, man. And this is where we tune the heart of mentoring. So make sure you sit back, relax, get your notepad out, get your pen, and take notes because you're gonna get something from this episode. And don't forget, if you liked what you have heard and have watched all season long, even the last season, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share with the world. And let's get it. Hey, today we got a special guest. Actually, we've been having special guests all season long, even the previous season. And this season, we have decided to focus. I don't know if you guys have noticed. We decided to focus on all stars that are making an impact in this generation. Young adults, youth that are making an impact in this generation and are being all stars at it. And today we got a very special young man, Taijon Graham from Nipissing University, a guy I met. When did we meet? Like in February or March, something like that? In February. And he definitely stood out to me. We've had various conversations, and I just really want to share what he's doing in his environment, in his community, and in this nation with the rest of you. So you can get to know his name and seek him out and definitely join in with all his initiatives. So Taijon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, man. How are you guys doing today?
Feeling good, feeling great, man. But the real question is, how are you feeling, man? How you feeling, man? Like, tell us a bit about yourself. Who is Taijon Graham before we even ask any questions?
Yeah, so like I said, my name is Taijon Graham. I'm going to my third year at Nipissing University. I'm on the men's basketball team, majoring in business administration with a focus on entrepreneurship and innovation leadership. This past year, I co-founded a group on my school's campus called NewBase. So NewBase stands for Nipissing University Black Association for Student Expression. So I co-founded that, the president of that. That led me to other opportunities, which includes me founding a group called Athletes for Change. So Athletes for Change is comprised of newly formed BIPOC student athlete-led groups. At the moment, it's for all the groups are in Ontario, but my goal is to make it nationwide within the next year. So I'm the founder of that, director of that. And I do a lot of other things too. I'm also the BIPOC student liaison for the BCCA for Coach Lee, which you guys had on the podcast last season. So I do a lot of things.
So you just said a bunch of things, like a bunch of initiatives. And so you are a student athlete. You play basketball in Nipissing. You just said you founded NewBase. You said that you're doing the Athletes for Change. You're part of the BCCA, and you're you're a student also. Beyond that, you're a student. So my question to you is, like, why do all these things? You could easily be a common everyday student, go to school, take your notes, do your essay, get your grade, 4 years in and out, you're gone. But why be involved with all these things on top of being an athlete? Why?
For sure. I've said this many times, the beauty about the pandemic last year is that it gave everyone a time, to self-reflect. There was nothing else that we could really do. We couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't do what we loved. With me being an athlete, I couldn't go outside and play basketball like I once wanted to. So when George Floyd got murdered May 25th, that was like, it was basically everything, the whole world saw it. It's one of those things where we always heard about these stuff with police brutality, with the Trayvon Martins and, the Eric Garners, all that type of stuff. But George Floyd was different because it was the first time that people saw it live. Like, you saw the video, there was no debate, like everyone saw it for yourself. Like, so around that time, it gave me the opportunity to look in the mirror and ask myself, at the time I was 19 going on 20, and I had to look in the mirror and ask myself, like, you've been cognizant of all these stuff that happens to the community, you've been through some stuff yourself, like, but have you done anything about it? And I was like, no. And when I said no to myself, I was really ashamed because, like I said, like, I knew all this stuff was going on. I was cognizant of it. I had my own personal stories with, like, microaggressions and being the only person that looks like me in the room. So at that point, it was just like, okay, I don't know where to start, but I know I got to do something. Now, at the time, I didn't know it was going to be new based and athletes for change. I just knew I wanted to do something, because the beauty about being a student athlete is that we have a tremendous platform. You know, when you look at the OUA, you know, we're the first people you see, whether it's like the TVs, the buses, pamphlets, flyers, the gyms, all that type of stuff. Like, people come to see us. And when we're in these communities, especially with Nipissing, which is a very small community, every time we wear a Nipissing Lakers jersey, people know that we go to the school, we represent the school. So it was just really important for me to really find a way to use that platform to really have these important conversations and create initiatives that are going to give opportunities for other people to be involved that want to help. Because I've always heard people saying, you know, well, you're doing great things. Well, yeah, you definitely have my support. You know, let me know if you want to help. Well, me creating all these initiatives is giving people the opportunity to support. Like, if you really want to say, you know, we want to support, well, these are things I'm creating to make sure that you can put your money where your mouth is and actually support like you said you would. So that was just my whole thinking in terms of why I really wanted to get involved after what happened to George Floyd last year.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you recognize the platform you have, and you're leveraging that to your advantage. You know, it's huge. So I definitely commend you with that, and wish you all the best in everything you're doing. You know, keep it up, because like being on a university campus, like athletes don't realize like how big of a superstar you are to these kids, especially the kids that look up to you. You know, in a place like where's Nipissing? Is in Sudbury,
North Bay.
North Bay. It's in North Bay. You know, there's no professional teams there. You know, I think is there a hockey team around there?
Maybe, but I'm not so sure. But
Yeah.
definitely no, you know, professional team that like screams like out to you, right?
So it's all about the Lakers. You know, you guys are the NBA stars. You guys are the MLS stars. You know, so it's huge to recognize that you have a huge platform, and to do something with that. So shout out to you and everybody you work with.
Appreciate that, man.
When you were talking about your reflection, like looking yourself in the mirror, I think that's really deep and something that I don't think a lot of people take the time to do. And I just want to say thanks for sharing that. Like, to be able to dive deep and be able to recognize within yourself, like what you need to do to be part of that change. Um, with like, I know like Kwame was mentioning like all the initiatives you've been part of and like being part of this for a while now. What has been like something that you've been seeing as like a change that you're like, you can actually see that's starting to roll out and ripple and have that effect on people to be more than just saying, oh, we support you, but that's it. What have you seen like in the last bit?
I think the biggest thing I've seen is that you can see the difference in terms of like, first of all, when you look at racism in general, you know, there's so many layers to it. Like, you know, there's like systematic oppression, you know, there's the education system and, you know, the job hiring process and all that type of stuff. You can see now over the past year that really people are, and businesses in general, are really starting to put a focus on the BIPOC groups. Like, for example, you know, my school is very close with RBC, and, you know, RBC has the future launch. And after George Floyd got murdered last year, you know, RBC is now committing, you know, $50 million to specifically BIPOC students through 2025. So things are like that are changing. And especially the most important thing for me that I've really seen is that the biggest problem that we always had is, Kwame could probably test is, you know, like the opportunities are not always there. Like, you know, you might be a young kid and you might say, you know, I want to be a doctor one day, or hey, I want to, you know, be a pediatrician, whatever the case may be. And along the way, you kind of lose that inspiration and that, you know, that grit, because you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel because there's no one there that looks like you. And there's so many times where I've heard that, you know, a lot of these companies are saying, you know, we're trying to look for Black talents, but we don't know where to find them. So you can really see that all these companies are really prioritizing, you know, creating, you know, these platforms and creating all these initiatives to really seek out Black talent, to mentor them and to give them opportunities. Because I know you guys are really big on mentoring. And I can just really tell that, you know, a lot of people are really starting to open their eyes and actually say, okay, these are the problems that are at hand. Let's actually do something to fix it. Rather than, you know, the simple symbolic gesture or having like one conversation here and there and that's it. Like, you can really see that people are actually sitting down and say, okay, this is the issue. How do we address it? And you can see, you know, what the Black Talent Initiative, Black North, Onyx, like all these different type of initiatives are being created to really give BIPOC students opportunities. And it's really going to benefit not just my generation, but the people after me in the long run, because now people are going to see that there's opportunities there for you to be successful. You know, those kids that are trying to be something and then get lost along the way because they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I told Kwame about this before, you know, when you're a young kid, you know, you need representation matters. And, you know, you need to see someone that looks like you to say that, okay, this is possible. Like, if you want to be a doctor, right? Like, I remember Kwame said on my podcast, you know, like, if you see like an old white guy talking about his life, it's like, okay, but like life was good for you. Like that's exactly what Kwame said verbatim,
Right.
right? So like when you see people that look like you, that come where you come from, that went through the same trials and tribulations, coming back to tell you that it's possible, that does so much for the community. And now I'm really seeing that all these organizations are starting to put those type of people in position to tell their stories to resonate to a younger audience, which is so needed.
Yeah, and like even the having resources available, because like the fact that that's only coming out now, like with RBC being able to do that, like we're going year, and the financial has been the biggest like barrier for people to go do the go to school. Like you don't think about going to school because that's literally really expensive to do. So if there's more opportunities, I know like Kwame, you guys had your own like scholarship that you guys do too. So yeah, that's awesome that you're able to even just recognize those things that are happening. And there's so much movement towards that, because we hear a lot like getting guest speakers to talk about matters in the world, but we're not like actually hearing what has been done, like a positive aspect to that, which I think we need to know more about those. So thanks for sharing that one that I just learned about today.
Of course.
Yeah, man. I love hearing such like inspiration from, you know what I mean? This is what the season's about. We get these younger generation and they're just full of that like, we're
Passion and
boiling some of your
drive,
energies
yeah.
right now. Um, I also loved how when you were doing your intro there, you said you play for the men's basketball team. You didn't say I play for the basketball team. You said I play for the men's basketball team. And I saw what you're doing with like sport with like women's basketball and how you're kind of like promoting that. And I think that's like a big push right now with like what's going on with the WNBA, trying to get fair salaries. So I noticed the language changing about how people talk about it. So I booked that. I appreciated that. But I wanted to ask you. I was gonna wait for this question, but it's burning, so I'm just gonna let it fly. But talk to me about music, man. I'm in here. I'm in a music studio right now, and I seen a little something you were doing, and clearly what you're passionate about is just seeping into every avenue of your life, whether it's sports, whether it's like the school community, and now is music something that was always going on, or is this a new thing for you? Talk to me a little bit about that.
It's funny because like I was you hear all the time, when people say like, ballers want to be rappers, rappers want to be ballers. I never really bought into it. I was always like a basketball
And
player.
said I'm both.
Yeah, like or like Damian Lillard. Like Damian Lillard can flat out do both. Like he's a hooper and he can rap. But basically to answer your question, I've always been really good at writing. Like I started writing poetry when I was about 13. And I really got back into it around the time I was about 17 years old. So when George Floyd got murdered last year, I've always loved music. I create videos too. So I'm always looking, for like background music and stuff like that. Just curiosity. And then one day I saw like a beat and I was like, oh, okay, it's kind of cool. And then I remember I just heard it and I was like, this is pretty good. And for some reason, like all these ideas started coming up about, some stuff you can do with it. And, when you get your notepad on your phone, you just start writing. I just started writing and I was like, oh, like this is like, it's like coming out because I've never tried to be a rapper. Like I've always been focused on basketball. Like it's not like one of those people that go to studios like every weekend and like create hits and stuff like that. That's not me. But I do like to write. So when that opportunity came to just start writing and all the stuff about, the social justice stuff, like I felt like it was really natural for me because it's something I could talk about. I always love the rappers that have that kind of storytelling. It was like J. Cole, like Lil Durk, and like just all those new rappers that actually have something to say, or Meek Mill, like who can really tell a story in a song rather than just putting stuff out there for PR, whatever the case may be. So as I was going through that, I was like, wow, like this is really good. And the motivation I got from that was from The Bigger Picture by Lil Baby, because the song that he put out last year was like whoa, that put him on a different level because all the stuff that he was saying, it was like bar for bar, was like yes, 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 like hit on the nails. I was like, I'm not gonna be Lil Baby. Like, let me just try to do something like that. Just something, because this is before I started New Base, right? Like I said, I wanted to do something, but I didn't know it would be like that song, and it just ended up becoming a song called Diary of a Black Kid, and just yeah, like it was just really fun to be in the studio. 'Cause I'd never been in the studio before, so that was pretty fun. Like one of the lines, like I said, was what I say, oh yeah, like one of the lines I said was never bother get a job because the system's systemic. COVID-19 is the name, but this is a racial pandemic, and like stuff like that was like stuff that I really wanted to let people here because I really feel like it was really important. I wanted to make sure that everything I wrote and every single line like had a message in it, and that people can really take it for what it is, and just let people know that these problems exist and let's have these conversations.
Was it was it difficult? Because I see just by like getting to know you a little right now and then seeing what I see on your podcast, you're a guy who you don't seem like there's a lot that you hide. You are who you are, and you kind of you let that out to the world unapologetically. And I'm wondering, like, basketball's a controlled environment. Everything you're doing, although it's coming from your heart, is still in a controlled way. But music is a vulnerable space where you can let a little bit of yourself to the world. Was that hard for you to kind of break away from the normal there? Like, you know what I'm saying? Was that hard for you to share that part of you, or was it just, yo, let's go?
For me, like I was always social. I was always a social kid. Like I always liked being around people. But as I got older, there I kind of for some reason I kind of got more shy just because like I was bullied a lot growing up, like I said earlier in the conversation, in elementary school, like I was the only person, I was the only black kid in my class. Like there was a black girl, but I was the only black boy in my class, let alone being the tallest kid. So that was like really hard for me. And as I got older, being bullied, because the thing about that was from grade 4 to 8, I was with those same people because I was in the French program. So as you progress, you're not gonna switch different classes where you're gonna be with those same people from age 9 to 14. So that was like 5 years of really like a lot of stuff happening, like bullying and microaggressions and all this different stuff. So as I got into high school, I talked about this, with my old high school because I did a presentation for them. Like at the time, when I was like 14 years old, like I had no identity. Like I'm just gonna be honest, I had no identity. Like if people asked me at 14, who's Taijon Eccleston-Graham, like it probably was such every single day. Like from one day my favorite color might be red, but if the in crowd says their favorite color is green, okay, the next day my color will be green. So as I got older, like I was social in the terms of like playing sports and basketball. But when it came to like the classroom, like trying to make friends, like I never had a lot of friends. I was never really good at socializing with people. I always had problems with social cues. So as I got older, it was really hard for me to really show people who I was, just because the precedent was that what I guess for what I who I was, people didn't like me. So I was kind of afraid to show people who I was. Even in my first year of university, like I just finished my podcast with our teammates, and they were saying like, yo, like when you first came in, like you can tell like you were timid, like you weren't really trying to show people who you were. And I was like, I remember telling someone, I was like, yeah, like I'm scared to show people who I am because I don't know if people are gonna like me based off the precedent of being a 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 year old. Like that's what it was. Like I showed people who I was, the people might like me for a little bit, then eventually people don't like me. So when I did the song, I feel like at that point, like you said, it was basically like, yeah, like it's time to go, just because it really lit a fire to me, just seeing how passionate I was, just because like I'm tired of seeing this nonsense. Like I'm tired of every time I drive and I see a car, like I'm scared. Like I'm tired of every time I go in a room, I might be the only person who looks like me in the room. Like I'm tired of every time I talk, people might do microaggressions saying, "Oh, whoa, you speak really good for me." It's like I'm tired of all that. Like I'm tired of potentially going to a job and might be, systematic oppression just because of the color of my skin tone, but I might be just as qualified as the person next to me. Like all this stuff was like, I'm tired of that. So I think at that point I just said, screw that, like screw all the, being, kind of shy and to show people who I am. I'm just gonna say, let's just put this out to the world and whatever happens, happens. But I know that whatever message I'm spewing out is like, it's what's important to me and it's what needs to be said.
Mm.
Bro, that's like, yeah, man, that's deep, man. Like, I totally agree with you and can relate to everything you just said, especially just about, well, first of all, shout out to you for talking about Lil Baby. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was just like, yo, people don't realize how lyrical Lil Baby actually is. If you really
Same.
take him in, like what he says, ugh. But on another note, just growing up and being the only person that looks like you in your environment, it's hard, it's tough, man, because sometimes you feel like you can't even be yourself, because if you be yourself too much, then you might be categorized as a certain person, so you kind of like that, turn it down a little notch, turn down your blackness a little notch, just so you can kind of fit in within the confines of their space. So I totally agree with you, and it's hard. It's emotionally and mentally draining. It really is. And sometimes you just feel like you're just not yourself. Like, when can you be yourself? And I realized this. I realized that also, the higher you go in life, the worse it gets. I'm gonna repeat that. The higher you go in life as a young Black man, the worse it gets. When you go to university, there's even less people that look like you in your classes. When you get a professional job in corporate world or in academia, there's even less people that look like you. So then what do? And for the longest while, this is a struggle I've had for years. A struggle I've had for years, from university to teaching in high school, teaching at a high school in Fort Marie, Alberta. A struggle I had for years where I just didn't feel like I could be myself. And then recently I realized, you know what? I looked at it another way. I realized that I actually can be a representation of people that look like me. I actually could be a person that brings awareness to somebody who probably never would have interacted with another person that looked like me, a Black guy with dreads from Rexdale that probably would have never interacted with them. And I could be a positive image. I could change the narrative, and I can make them realize that not all Black people are what you see on TV. So it is a lot of pressure, and it sucks, but it could also turn into something positive in the future when these people who never would have had the opportunity to interact with anybody that look like us do get that opportunity and don't have a bias because they've seen, oh, he's cool, he's cool. He's not what you see on TV. So I just want to send you that, and hopefully that seed will help you in the future with whatever rooms you enter, and just look at it from that angle. But I have a question though. I do have a question. I just went into a little mode there. I do have a question though, totally off track. So they say experience is the greatest teacher, right? Experience is the greatest teacher, and I find that like whenever we dive into new things, new ventures, new initiatives, such as a podcast, such as starting a new group called New Base, that we learn things about ourselves that we previously didn't know. You learn a new skill. You learn that you have maybe a characteristic about you that you just didn't know before, and you've developed it by starting this new initiative. So I kind of want to know, through all these things you started, what have you learned about yourself that you previously didn't know? Or is there somebody that has taught you something that has changed your mindset?
It's interesting. Like, I think that these opportunities kind of brought something out of me that was always there. It just needed to be tapped in. So like, I think I've always been able to talk to people. I've always been, organized. I've always been really passionate. I'm a really hard worker. I was talking to someone yesterday and he was telling me, listen, like, you're a student athlete. Like, I already know how your work ethic is. We're built different. So like, I've always had that work ethic. So I think that it really brought out of my shell in terms of how confident I am, how like passionate. Honestly, I think if the one thing that brought out of me was like how passionate I am about this. Like, before this stuff, like I said, I knew about this stuff, but I didn't know I was passionate about it. Like, I didn't really think that, oh, I was actually gonna do all this stuff and like actually like try to implement all these initiatives. It was interesting. So I just think that it really just brought out what was always there. I was talking. It's actually funny because I was talking to my mom yesterday. So like when I was younger, I had speech alignment and I was getting testing and all that stuff done. And she told me a story like one of the, I think like the neuropsychologist, something like that. She was like, they were saying like, how do you think my son's gonna be? And then she told me that he said, I see your son being a motivational speaker. And at the time I was 4. I'm like, I asked him like, how did that guy know I was gonna be a motivational speaker? Like, I was 4, and I haven't seen him since. So that was like 17 years ago. And she's like, well, probably God put that in him to tell you that, or put it on your life. So I was like, wow. I was like, and I look at it now, and I think the one lesson that I've learned is like, really take time to appreciate what you've done. Because when it comes to this space, I'm always like on the go. Like, I'm always trying to say, okay, what's next? Like right now, I'm really focusing on the promotion of Athletes for Change in terms of, getting people to, to publish us in terms of Instagram or articles, stuff like that. Like, I'm always like pushing, like I'm working with a charity to create like grants for Black student athletes for next year. So I'm always on the go. Like, I'm always trying to think, okay, what's next? But I had a really good conversation with a friend a couple of days ago, and he was telling me that, listen, like, always take time to just sit back and just appreciate what you've done. Because the mentality that you have now is like, you're always on the go. You're always thinking what's next. And then eventually there's nothing next after that. So he's like, yo, just take the time to actually like appreciate what you've done. And when I actually did that, I was like, yeah, he's right. Like I started a group, I started another group. I have like over half the schools involved already in like less than 6 months. Like wow, like I've done a lot. So yeah, I just think like I said, basically it just made me tap into something that I didn't know was there that just needed to be put out, and just like I said, just really take the time to just sit back and just appreciate what you've done, because not a lot many people can say that they've done all this stuff. So just be grateful that you were able to do it.
Facts. Just be present, man. Being present. That's it.
Eh,
And oh,
Izzy, can I just say something real quick?
yep.
I just wanted to add on to that point a little bit, because this was a big learning that I had kind of later in my life, and I wanted to offer this to you. Is sometimes appreciate what that was at the time. So we had a little project that we had going on, and it was great for 2 years, and then it kind of fell apart after that. And everyone was like, oh, that sucks that this happened. And it did suck for a minute, but then I looked back and I was like, well, no, because we got 2 amazing years out of that. And then just to back to what you said, why is that not enough? You know what I'm saying? And I've kind of been taking that more in my recent life, is like moment to moment, day to day. That's what Kwame's always say, one day at a time, one day at a time. And sometimes whatever you're involved in at the time is meant for that time, but it's not meant forever. So really enjoy those things and those projects, those friends, whatever you got going on in this moment. And sometimes it's only meant for that moment, but that's okay. So I love what you just said.
When you were talking about like yourself being like at a young age being told that they're going to be a motivational speaker, and looking back what you just shared with us about, you were growing up and you were kind of timid and you were kind of just writing on the side. You always knew you were a good writer, and now being like using your writing and your experience and all the passion that you have to make a change through your voice. How, like, I find that interesting too, because it's like I thought about artists who have been told they can't read music, but they're like the best artists of creating. And often, sometimes we might be like, I know for me, like I grew up in like ESL classes because English wasn't my first language. So, but I am a really good writer. So sometimes people get boxed in these things that they're only capable of doing it, but often what is our, like what people see as us not being able to vocalize, but we're actually really good at that. And that's our strength. I think that was really powerful. I don't know if you took that in, but being told that so young, and then yourself having a different journey about that and not really seeing that. And now you're here and being able to be that. I think you should give yourself just a proud moment about that, because often that stops people from doing things. I thought about Ray Charles, who's blind, and everyone was like, how are you supposed to play music? And he did it using other senses, so I think that's pretty cool. I was thinking about when you were saying, I didn't have an identity when you were young, and growing up and trying to navigate that and find yourself through that. When you look back, like your legacy, like what is the impact? What is this legacy that when you think of yourself today and you finish school and you're heading where you're heading, where are you going to be? Are you going to be motivational speaking? Are you like, what is the root of like where you want to be at the end of this, and leaving a legacy of a message or actions?
Yeah, so when I was fortunate enough to go back to my high school about 2 weeks ago, like virtually, to do a couple of presentations, because they asked me to come because they saw the stuff I was doing. And at the end of the presentation, I said a lot. Like I talked about, my new base and athlete for change and all that type of stuff. I was like, because I was in high school a couple years ago, so I know like you're not always gonna take in everything, because it's a lot being thrown at you. So at the end of the presentation, I was like, okay, I said a lot today to you guys. They're like these like 10th graders, like one class of 10th graders, one class of 12th graders. So basically, I was like, I said a lot today, but what's the one thing I want you guys to take out of my story and all the things that I said? And I told them that I basically put it into a quote that I made, like that perfectly sums up everything I've gone through, that really should resonate with everyone. It goes like this: don't let the trials and tribulations you go through in life define who you are, but how you overcome them define who you are. Don't let the trials and tribulations in life define who you are, but how you overcome them define who you are. See, everyone's gonna go through stuff in life. Going back to my story, like I said, I was just how you talked about you easy how you're an ESL. Like I was a special needs kid. Like I was actually an IEP because I had speech delayment. And it was at the time they wanted to keep me in there for 8 years. They wanted to keep me in there from the first grade up until high school. And after 1 year, my mom and one of my teachers that was ready to come out, and they're like, no, 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 like he needs more time. And then after that 1 year, I was out. And then, at that time, if you told those guys that, listen, that same kid that you wanted to keep in that box, like you said, for 8 years, do you think that kid's going to end up being, an IB graduate? Do you think he's going to end up getting his French certificate? Do you think he's going to end up being an Ontario Scholar? Do you think he's going to end up starting 2 organizations in 1 year? Do you think he's going to end up getting a business degree at university? Like, do you think that kid was going to be that? They probably say no. So it basically, like, to sum it up, like, everyone's going to have stuff thrown at you, and you're going to have people in your life that might say, oh, he's probably not that smart, or, oh, like, you can't do this, or, oh, you can't do that. But, like, those people don't matter. And that's one thing that I've learned as I got older, because when I was preteens and early years of high school, and that's something I wish I regret, but at the same time, I don't, because it helped me get to this point. I cared so much about what other people thought of me. Like, if one person said something small to me, let's say on the bus, that somebody even know, I would think about it for the rest of the week. And now that I'm older, I'm about to be 21, where today's June 19th, my birthday's on June 28th. So in 9 days, I'll be 21. 7 years ago, like, those little things would just crumple my mind and just crumple everything about me. I would just like crumple and just be mad about everything. But now, looking at it now, I realized, like, listen, the people that were there for me, like my parents and my brother and the teachers I had in high school that were ready to support me, those are the people that matter. Not the classmates that I had that would call me a spaz, or, say I look like a girl because I had cornrows, which one reason why I grew up back, because I wanted to change that narrative. Mm-hmm. The same people that gassed the day I got my honor roll certificate, because they didn't think the tall black kid, was wearing a basketball jersey was smart. These probably thought I was just some tall black kid who was athletic. When I got my honor certificate, the whole gym, which I've said before, which I'll never forget, was like, like in shock. Like, those people that was 6-7 years ago don't matter, because at the end of the day, they can't write my story. Like, they can't tell me, like, you're gonna do this, or you're gonna do that, or self-fulfilling prophecy, all that nonsense. Like, and I remember, like, basically just like, listen, like, I write my own story, and like, I'm in control of what I want to do. And that's why I told the kids, listen, the beauty about all of us that we all have our own mind. Like, we all have the ability as we get older to really think for ourselves and see how we want to be perceived. And I remember and I showed one of the clips, Kwame, it's actually funny. I showed one of the clips of your episode that you said, which I really wanted them to listen, when you said perception is everything in life. Like, basically how you want to be seen. And basically what I told the kids was that, listen, like, every time you do something, think about, like, how does it make me look? So when I do all these stuff, and I create the group, I start another group, I work my butt off to be a great student so I can tell kids these stories. Like, that's how I want to be seen. I want to be seen as someone that went through the trials and tribulations and was able to come back and tell them, this is how I did it. Because the most important thing about as we get older is that we need to make sure that when I told Kwame the same thing on our podcast, like, I want to be able to go through the trials and tribulations and then go back to my community and tell them how to do it so they can come out of it, because I don't want them to struggle the way I struggle. And the beauty about all of the stuff that we learn as we get older is that everything's evolving every single day. Technology's evolving, the world's evolving. So the same ideas that I had in terms of how I started a group, the next generation might have the same idea, and they might even have a better way of how to do it. And those are the type of gems that we need to pass on to make sure to at least give them that idea and say, hey, listen, it's possible. And this is how I did it. But hey, you don't have to do it like me. You might have a better idea. And that's what I want. I don't want you to do the way I did it, because you might have a better idea and you might put that to the side and say, oh, but this is the right way. No, if you have a way that works, do it. We're all different. And that's what I really learned, to sum it up, just like all those people that doubted me, like with basketball, doubted me when I was younger, tried to tell me I was this, tried to tell me I was that, tried to put me in a box, tried to act like I wasn't smart. Those people don't matter. They're part of my story, but they're not the story. And that's what I wanted people to really.
Okay, yeah, that's, you just say that again, because that literally is the best right there.
Oh, that they're part of the story, but they're not the story.
Yeah.
Also, could we just take in that the whole point of this podcast that we put together was for us, been doing this for a long time, been in the field for a long time, to look at you, the younger generation, and say, hey, we did it this way. but maybe you got something different. Maybe you got a new idea, and you just brought that wisdom that it took us 30 something years to figure out. You just brought that right here at the age of 20. You're already thinking that far into the future. That's powerful, bro. That's powerful.
That's
Thanks
huge.
for. Oh, okay. Well, the narrative part really hit me the most with that share, because I think with the narrative you can change a lot in that, and even just bring strength to yourself. So when you're looking at yourself as a young kid, and then looking at yourself now, I hear a lot of like empowerment. I hear a lot of power taken back. I hear you bringing hope to the next generation, even just sharing that the narrative that you had grown up in, you're making change to make bigger impacts so people can see that and believe that and be able to achieve that. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you.
And it's huge. We just talked about with regards to evolution, because like evolution is a process, right? Evolution is a process, and within that process are many different parts, and each part is the most important part. And if you don't do your part, then there is no evolution. And right now, you are doing your part.
Mm.
Shout out, real talk. Um, You also said today's June 19th. We didn't say this, but hey, happy Juneteenth, everybody. Happy Juneteenth. I thought about it earlier on. And yeah,
Yeah.
we definitely got to say it, even though this is going to be aired.
Yeah, this is gonna be aired a month.
But happy
Yo,
Juneteenth.
we're giving away our secrets. People think this is live.
Yo, Taijon, we got a couple of questions we ask everybody at the end of this podcast. And the first question is, we talked about you being in university right now. You're still young, turning 21 soon. High school was not too far away from right now, and we want to bring it back to high school, to 15-year-old Taijon. I don't know if that's the one that was being made fun of because he had cornrows. I don't know which one that was, but I want to bring it back to that person. And if you could have a conversation with that person, depending on whatever was going on in that person's mind, in that person's life, in that person's day-to-day life, what would you tell that person as the man you are today? What would that conversation look like?
Well, there'd be a lot of things, but it's the same thing that I heard. Someone asked this question, but as like 18-year-old self, what would you tell your 18-year-old self? So basically the same thing. I would tell the 15-year-old Taijon. This is actually funny because you look back, like there's actually a picture of I don't know if they can see this, but like oh, I'm gonna get this. Someone pull this up. This is like you got 14-year-old Taijon, you got 15. This is the version. You got 14-year-old Taijon right here. So basically, if I told this version of Taijon, just be like, have faith. Like even when things they'll look at that not going to work out, it always works out. Like when I first went to my high school, because I went to through high school. So when I went to Cedar Bay first, I thought I was going to be there for 4 years. And then after my 10th grade year, I transferred. And when I went to my first, my new high school, which is Pope, that people know it as, the first month I didn't want to be there. I was like, and I don't want to be here. Like I'm wearing uniforms. I don't want to be here. And I remember what really changed everything for me was the first around, I think it was around September 30th, I believe, or somewhere around that line. We have morning mass because we're a Catholic school. So once a month. So I wanted to take the opportunity to go back to Cedar Bay to visit some friends, say, hey, how you guys doing? Like all that type of stuff. Because the good thing about Cedar Bay or public school started around 8:45, whereas, some schools started, 8:30. And that day, we were starting. We had a late start because of the mass. So I said, I have time. It's pretty close, so I can go to Cedar Bay, talk to some guys, maybe 20 minutes, and then hop on the bus and go to the church for mass. So when I got to Cedar Bay, and I saw one of my friends, I was like, hey man, hey bro, how's it going? This guy was at his locker, and he was at his locker, and he didn't look at me one time. Someone who I thought was my friend for 2 years. We talked, especially grade 10 last year before I left. Like we had 4 or 5 classes together. Like I thought we were getting really, really close. So when I was like, hey man, how's it going? Like he's at his locker and he's like, yeah, man. I was like, how's everything going? He's like, good. So when I left that day, like I'm gonna be honest with you, like I literally teared up. Like I was like, bro, I thought you were my friend. Like I know I'm not at the same school anymore, but you're not, so you're gonna act like you don't know me. Like That's what I was thinking when I was walking to the bus. Like I was actually crying. Like I was like what? And I remember saying, if I had the choice, I swear to God, I would never leave the school. That's what I said at 16. So basically, just a year later, I was like, I swear to God, if I had the chance, I would never leave the school. I swear to God. But then I realized looking back at it now, which was around 5 years ago, was like that was probably the most important thing I needed to move on because it realized that those people that you thought were your friends, and the people that you thought that you had a bond with, didn't think the same of you. Like I was hoping that like how I was thinking about them when I was at this new school, saying I miss these guys, like all this type of stuff. They could have cared less that I left. Like I remember the last day, they're like, hey, sorry for everything that happened, wishing nothing but the best, all that type of stuff. Then I'm thinking I'm gonna come back and just say, hey guys, how's it going? Like, yo, like what y'all been up to? And then, like I said, the fact that that person who I thought was my friend did even look up to me one time and act like I didn't exist, that really, really hurt. And it made me realize that day, like, yo, pick your friends closely. Or I think we need to really be careful how we use the word friends, because friends is like someone that's going to be really there for you. You can call them right now and say, hey, let's talk. That now I realize now that person wasn't a friend. They weren't even acquaintance. They were, at the time, they were what I call, they were useful. And they were useful for the time. As a 14, 15-year-old kid just wanted to talk to someone at lunch, work with someone on a project. They were useful, but they weren't a friend. And at that point, I didn't know what the future was going to hold for me. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do at this new school. I don't know what it's going to look like. And what I would tell that 15-year-old self, the same kid in this picture, would be like, oh, sorry, the same kid in this picture would be like, have faith. Because even when things don't look like it's going to work out, it always finds a way to work out. Had I not left that school, there's no way on earth any of this would have happened, because the smallest things in history always make a difference. If I went back in time and changed that I didn't leave that school, my whole life would be completely different, because I would not have met the people I would have met, which would led me to go to prep basketball for my 50, which would ultimately have not led me to be a Nipsey, which obviously would not have led me to do all these things. So that version of Taijon, just have faith. Like it may seem like it's not good now. All those same people that you think you're friends now, you're gonna find out real soon that they're not. But nevertheless, just have faith. When you think things are not gonna work out, it always finds a way to work out. I don't know how, but it always does.
It does. It does. Everything happens for a reason. So there's a two parts to this question. You answer the first part. The second part is like, if you could be your own parent or guardian of that person, if you could be you Teja could be the parent or guardian of that person, what would you say to them? What would you like? How would you guide them?
Honestly, I think I probably would do it exactly the way my parents did it, like how they did with me. Honestly, like my parents were so instrumental in my life. It's my mom went back to school when I was 5, and my brother was about 14. Went back to school for 3 years. Got her diploma in child and youth work from Centennial College. So seeing her do that just showed me that's possible. My dad, from the age of like 4, 5, will have me on the floor, doing math homework, reading books. Like in the summertime when kids are going to Canada's Wonderland, going on vacation, I'm at home, doing math books, reading books, writing essays and all that type of stuff. So honestly, I probably would do it exactly the way my parents did it, because it ultimately led me to be this. So I probably would do exactly how my parents did it.
Well, hey, shout out to your parents. They raised a good one. They raised a good one. All
I
right.
I just want to say, I think well, one of the big things I just noticed right now when you were talking about how that guy said being a let's talk to the camera, being a motivational speaker when you're 4, you have a very unique way of starting, with your point, like how an essay's built. You tell your story and then connect it back to the end. Like, bro, when I do that, I get lost in the story. I forget my point, and then I'm like way over here by the end of it, and then I'm just rambling. Um, and that's something that people actually train for. That's something that Kwame's really, really good at. But I watched him getting better at it. And that's something that a speaker needs to have, right? You need to have a point at the end. So I just wanted to bring that up real quick because I noticed that right now. Yeah, go ahead, Kwame. I'm done.
Hey, Tejan, thank you for your time. Thank you for your stories. We definitely learned a lot from you today, and we understand that it's not about how you start; it's about how you finish. And we also understand that it's about also taking time to be present in every moment and counting your wins. So, thank you for sharing that with us. And I know everybody watching today learned a lot from you. And on that note, Dylan, take him with the outro.
All right, yo, Taijon, thank you for coming, bro. I appreciate you. Keep doing your thing. Lovely day. A lovely way to start off Saturday morning. And this is me stalling, trying to remember what I say for the outro.
Okay, before you finish, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with the world. Let's go.
Share with the world. Let's go. See, I can do it. Oh, I can't do it. All right, everybody. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, this is just our perspective on mentoring. What's yours? See you next week. That was it.
Yeah, that was good. Good job, man. Good job.
I love that you have a photo of yourself. That's really inspiring.
I know.
Because like that brings you back. That's just like, don't forget.
I got a graduation, guys.
Okay.
Wow.
Nice meeting you.
I-
Before Dylan. Oh wait, Dylan, stop. Wait, I'm the host, right?
I can leave and you can stay.
Okay, I'm just making
I'm
sure
just
that.
leaving, that's all.